What's up? Welcome in the Matt Bernier Show. DRF TV, live.drf.com, livestream.com, the Daily Racing Forum's Twitter handle at DRF Inside Post, as well as the Daily Racing Forum's Facebook page. My name is Matt Bernier. You can follow me on Twitter at Bernier_Matt. This is the recap edition of the Matt Bernier Show. Going back and taking a look at all the big stakes action from this past weekend, Memorial Day weekend, the weekend of May the 26th. I said all those live ways that you can watch the show. Unfortunately, this week, because of the way the holiday fell, there is no live stream, so you'll end up checking this out podcast version. YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, video.drf.com. If you listen on YouTube, click that subscribe button. You'll get all the latest offerings from DRF TV. Give us the thumbs up. If you listen on iTunes, give us a nice little review, give us a 5-star rating, and all that kind of stuff. Helps us push everything out there. As I made mention, this is the recap edition. We'll go back and look at all the big stuff from this past weekend, Memorial Day. We will give you a nice stakes montage full of solid racing that unfortunately we can't just break down every single race. And then we'll also give you the weekend's best Beyer speed figure performances from across the country. Doesn't matter wherever they happen. Surface, distance, age, gender, whatever else it may be. Got you covered here on the Matt Bernier Show. Let's take a look at one of the big Grade 1 events. Kick things off out at Santa Anita on Saturday afternoon. The field for the Grade 1 Gold Cup at Santa Anita, 1.25 miles, an historic race. We obviously know all those years it was run out at Hollywood Park. Ever since Hollywood Park closed, it has been transitioned over to Santa Anita, and usually you'll get a very similar group of horses that we would see in the Big Cap, or maybe even some of the horses that decided to run over in Dubai. They come back and they run in this spot here. Only a field of 6, and there were 3 main protagonists in here. You had Accelerate, you had City of Light, you had Dr. Door coming in here on the upswing anyway, on the heels of a big effort in the Californian. But if you really thought that Pavel could get back to some of his best form, he made a little bit of sense in here. But the high weight in this race was Accelerate, and the high weight certainly did not disappoint. Michael Ronan with the stretch run of the Gold Cup at Santa Anita.
Dropping off a little bit fourth at the top of the stretch, and Dr. Door under the whip. City of Light on his outside. Here comes Accelerate. Accelerate moves up sharply at the 8th pole. He's gone straight past them. Accelerate does just that. He has the Big Cap Gold Cup double at his mercy. Accelerate running right away. Wins by 4 lengths to Dr. Door, who outstayed City of Light. Pavel finished 4th, and they were clear of Prince of Arabia.
Accelerate gets the job done for Victor Espinoza and John Sadler. A very, very impressive effort going off as the 9 to 5 second choice. The runner-up, Dr. Door, the pace setter, he runs a big, big effort. First time going out to 1.25 miles. He goes off at odds of 7 to 2. And City of Light, we know what his situation is. Very, very talented horse. Didn't know about the distance. He ultimately went off as a 6 to 5 favorite and just tired down toward the end to run a good third. Let's find out a little bit more about the winner, shall we? Accelerate is now 7 of 19 lifetime. You can see he's been in the money 17 of 19 starts. Over $1.7 million in career earnings, owned by Ronis Racing LLC, trained by John Sadler, bred by Mike Abraham in Kentucky. Ridden to victory by Victor Espinoza. You can see the pedigree at the bottom of the horse card. He is by Looking at Lucky out of an awesome, again, mare named Issues. Accelerate is really slow. I don't want to say slowly, but I would hope that people are really starting to pay attention to what this horse has turned into. He's always been a very, very talented horse, but as a 5-year-old, he has gone to the next level. He earns a 111 Beyer speed figure here and a 131 Timeform US rating. He comes home, and this is the thing that was most impressive to me about this entire race. His final quarter mile was in 24:68. The next fastest final quarter mile was Dr. Door's. He came home in 25:67, almost an entire second faster for that final quarter of a mile. You don't see that. Usually you're seeing if you can get a horse that shades 26, like a Dr. Door, like a City of Light in an instance like this, the way that those boys finished, usually that's a pretty darn good effort. When you consider and you break it down, you go through Formulator and break it down incrementally. This is how Accelerate's 5 quarters laid out. 23:55, 24:27, 24:22, 24:66, 24:68. I would argue this is as complete a performance as you're going to find at 10 furlongs. This was through and through. We can sit there and say other instances. We'll just use the most recent 1.25 mile race, the big one anyway, the Kentucky Derby. Obviously, a lot of things going on there with the wet track and 3-year-olds and 20 horses, da-da-da-da-da. But Justify, he had to go really, really fast. And you know what? He felt the effects of it late. It was still much better than anyone else, but he was feeling it at the end. He ran really hard. And that final time was in, I believe, 2:04 and change. This, and I know we're dealing with apples to oranges, 2 entirely different things. You've got older horses against 3-year-olds. But just the fashion that Accelerate ran in here, where he's down toward the inside, sitting in the pocket, really in no rush. Victor has the utmost confidence. Finally, when it's time to go, scrubs on him a little bit. He's not an immediate sort of bang, push button kind of horse. You got to give him a little bit of urging. Angles him out into the 3-4 path, turning for home, and this horse levels off and finishes like a monster. I was always a little bit concerned about the 1.25 miles. I picked him in the Pacific Classic last year because I thought maybe the blinkers, that was really what woke him up. This horse really, though, is a 5-year-old, and again, I sound like a broken record. We talk about it so many times. It is always amazing to see what these horses turn into when you allow them to peak physically, maturity-wise. We don't get to see our best horses that, generally speaking, we don't get to see our best horses actually reach their full maturity from a physicality standpoint. Usually late 4 into early 5, and even later than that. That's why you got to see some of those geldings. Then when they just would go on those runs, the Game On Dudes of the world, when they would just go out there, the Wise Dans of the world, they are fully matured horses. Now we're finally seeing that from a horse like Accelerate, where, you know what, he ran awesome as a 4-year-old, but now he's fully matured, fully mentally developed, everything. He's in great hands with John Sadler. This horse has turned into a monster. This is a major league horse. Now, there are some elephants in the room, no question about it. John Sadler's record in the Breeders' Cup, not spectacular. Record shipping out of town, not spectacular. The Breeders' Cup happens to be at Churchill Downs. But if this horse continues on this path, you have to look at him on the short list. And I'm not a huge weight guy, but the fact remains, he carried 4 more pounds than anyone else in this field. He carried 125. This, to me, is as complete an effort as you're going to find. I thought this was a phenomenal race from Accelerate. I thought it was a really good race from Dr. Dorr. Joe Talamo did what he was supposed to do. Put him out on the front end. You watch this horse run. He's loving life, ears pricked. And you know what? When the real running started, he stayed on. He just got his doors blown off by a horse that was much better on Saturday afternoon. City of Light, was it a disappointing effort? I suppose a little bit, because he was 6-5 and he went off as the favorite. But at the same time, we all had some concerns about that extra 1/4 mile. I didn't think the quarter would be a problem, or the final 1/8 mile, excuse me, because he ran so well in that 9 furlong race at Oaklawn. And I know Drayden Van Dyke afterwards said, definitely thinks that he can get the distance, City of Light, and an ideal trip would have been where Accelerate was as opposed to where he was. I have to be honest, I'm going to politely disagree with both of those. I think the perfect spot was where City of Light was, pressing Dr. Dorr, sitting just off of him, and you had Accelerate in a little bit of a box there for a minute, and you had First Run, and he just couldn't go on with it. To me, he flattened out down the lane, and again, the final incremental times would indicate that. When you see that one horse comes home in 24:68, the next one 25:67, and the last one 25:87, he's slowing down toward the end. It's one of those things where I think he's going to be much better suited if they choose to go back to one turn. Worth noting, Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile this year is at that sort of more traditional one-turn mile at Churchill. So to me, if I owned City of Light and I had anything involved with him, I'd be turning him back to middle distances. I don't want to try this 1.25 miles anymore. I think he's a nice horse. We know he can win grade 1s at 7. He can probably get out to a mile because we've seen him win at 9 furlongs. To me, I'd be focusing on those kind of prizes. 7/8 of a mile over the summer, whether it's Saratoga, whether it's Del Mar, and getting ready for a race like the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, just because I don't think he's as good at 10 as he is at 8 or 9 or 7. Dr. Dorr, he's another horse. I think ultimately you're probably going to want to go slightly shorter with him, but at the same time, I think he ran very well in here. If you take Accelerate out of this, he wins this race by a length and a quarter. The problem is Accelerate looks like he's going to stick around for a while. For what it's worth, John Sadler says the Pacific Classic is going to be the goal for Accelerate. No reason not to. He loves Del Mar, and clearly now the 10th furlong is just a piece of cake for him. He's finishing very, very well. One other thing to make mention of with a horse like Accelerate. When I talk about he's really sort of found himself from a Timeform US standpoint. His last 3 races, this race here into 131, 2 starts back 133 at Oaklawn, 3 starts back 133 winning the Big Cap. 3 consecutive races of 131 or greater on the Timeform US scale. The number of horses that have done that and the names that have done that over the past 2 years, 3 years, it's a very select group. I don't want to oversell this, but to me, again, this is as complete a performance as I think we've seen probably all this year. Very impressive from Accelerate. Pavel, I hate to say it. I think I talked about it a little bit in the stakes preview. I wonder if I just wish they hadn't gone to the Breeders' Cup Classic with him. He had a lot of racing in a really short amount of time, and he was doing some good things. And he went to the Breeders' Cup, and he got his doors blown off, and it was a disaster. And ever since then, I just don't think he's come back the same. And maybe he'll never get back to the same. But I just would love to have known what could have happened with a horse like this had they not gone to the Breeders' Cup and tried to just pack so much in such a short amount of time. Another story for another day. The big story here is Accelerate. A brilliant performance winning the Gold Cup out at Santa Anita. On to bigger and better things, Pacific Classic, and clearly year-end goal being the Breeders' Cup Classic. In this race here, the Gold Cup, he gets a 111 buyer and a 131 Timeform US rating. The other Grade 1 Saturday at Santa Anita was the Grade 1 Gamely, a mile and an eighth for older fillies and mares on the turf. There was already big news before this race started with the scratch of Uni for Chad Brown. Should she come over here, she would have been the favorite come post time. Unfortunately, she got ill and Chad had to stop on her. That left you with a field of 7. Favoritism landed on Hawksmoor shipping in from the East Coast. A little bit of a disappointing seasonal debut for Hawksmoor at Laurel, defeated as a 1-5 favorite, but it really felt like it was nothing more than a means to an end to get to a spot like this or somewhere else. But again, the complexion of the race changed entirely from the break when Hawksmoor missed it as bad as she did. That left us with Madam Stripes on the front end and a host of others in pursuit. Here's Michael Ronan with the stretch run.
Hawksmoor, and then comes Madam Dance-A-Lot. At the rear is Beau Recall. 3/16 to go. Madame Stripes, the leader from Sophie P. Madam Dance-A-Lot finishing strongly on the inside. Then Midnight Crossing. No sign of Hawksmoor. Beau Recall makes late headway. Madame Stripes just in front, tackled by Sophie P. and Madam Dance-A-Lot. They go to the line. It's close. Sophie P. or Madam Dance-A-Lot.
Three noses on the wire. And ultimately, Sophie P gets the job done at 14-1 odds. A very impressive effort here. Great ride from Kent DeSormo. She wins. Madam Dance-A-Lot. What else is there to say? She fires almost each and every time. Beautiful trip. Perfect ride up the inside from Corey Nakatani. Unfortunately, just missed out on the bob, finishing second in odds of 4-1. And Madam Stripes, the pace setter. She really, in my opinion, ran too well to lose. You have to feel for the connections a little bit. A big effort from her. A good ride from Bejarano. She finishes third at odds of 10-1, rounding out your trifecta. That came back for 50 cents, $209.50. Let's talk a little bit more about the winner, shall we? Sophie P. At this point, she's a 5-year-old mare. This is her first Grade 1 victory. Now, she'd come over here and run 2 starts back in the Royal Heroine to no avail. She needed a race more likely than not. They come here. She's now 5 of 21 lifetime, over $256,000 in career earnings, owned by DP Racing, trained by Jim Cassidy, bred by Newhall Stud in Great Britain. You can see Kent DeSormo with the ride. Again, a very, very patient ride, timed it very well. Everything worked out nicely. She is by Bush Ranger out of Giants Causeway mare named Fountains Abbey. Now, here comes the sort of downside of this Grade 1 effort. 91 buyer speed figure, 121 Timeform US rating. Both of those figs a little bit on the light side. Now, I've brought up in the past, Peter Thomas Fornatal has brought up that there's some sort, you can make a bit of a comparison between the Timeform US rating and the buyer speed figure. I believe Eric Bialik is also involved in a very rough, very, very rough sort of comparison, where it's right around 20 points south of what the Timeform US rating would be comparable for the buyer. If that's the case, then perhaps the buyer's a little bit on the light side. I don't believe it is in an instance like this. For what it's worth, Timeform US had every fraction color-coded red, meaning that it was helping horses coming from slightly off of it, including the likes of Sophie P, including the likes of Madam Dance-A-Lot, working against horses like Madam Stripes. Beau Recall, look, when you're that far back, when you're spotting Madam Dance-A-Lot 5 lengths, you're going to have to finish like an absolute house of fire. I don't know if that was her just being a little bit reluctant early, or the instructions were to save that late run. But I'll tell you what, they would have needed to go 44 for her to have any chance to win this race. She somehow runs 4th in here. Sophie P, the tactical ability, that really allowed her to get into a good position. And again, Kent DeSormo timed everything very, very well. And look, frankly, everybody involved said that they were a little bit lucky to win the bob. But that's what a head bob is. It's luck. It's ultimately who gets a nose down. Madam Dance-A-Lot, you feel bad for her, but at the same time, she had everything go her way. The pace, although they have it listed as fast, I don't think it was just off the charts fast. You see 23 and 4, 47, 1, 11 and 2. I kind of feel like that between the second and third quarter, things heated up a little bit, but really, you can't complain when you come from so far out of it and you ride the wood right through. Madam Stripes, I thought she ran a bang-up race. I thought it was a great ride from Bejarano. She was loving life on the front end. She actually earned the highest Timeform US rating in this field, running 3rd, which is a little bit odd, but again, the pace is factored in for the Timeform US ratings. She earned a 123 and only a 90 buyer, so something to keep in mind going forward. I think Madam Stripes ran a bang-up race. I think Sophie P ran a very good race. She had everything work out for her, and it was a good tactical ride. I think Madam Dance-A-Lot ran a really, really strong race. Nice to see her get back into good form after that dull effort at Churchill, but I'm going to just draw a line through that because of the surface. Another horse that, again, you need to just draw a line, 2 other horses in this race. Draw a line through this race. Hawksmoor with the start. Now, the concern there is, and Leparoux talked about it afterward, he didn't know if it was starting on the dirt or what, but she stumbled badly, and we've seen in the past the dirt footing, it can break from underneath horses as they get ready to go and pounce out of the gate. But now, let's call a spade a spade. She's 5 years old. We've talked about it in the past when horses get a little bit reluctant or they don't show the interest that they once did coming out of the gate. That could be a sign of them tailing off form. And she's 5 years old, and you got to wonder, is she starting to go the opposite direction? This isn't the race that you want to make that decision on, but it's something that if you factor this in with what you saw in the Dahlia at Laurel in her comeback effort where she's supposed to win that race and she doesn't, maybe you want to think about where she stacks up. But it'll be interesting to see where she shows up next, because there's a scenario where if you still believe, you could get a decent price on her. The other horse that you just want to draw a line through this race is Mopetism. Mopetism clearly is not a turf horse. I think the Connections just probably took a shot knowing that all the big girls are still on the dirt and you're not quite as good as they are, so you want to find out if you can run on turf. This is a resounding no. She cannot. And I'm sure they'll go back to the dirt with her. But Sophie P., hats off. She's now a Grade 1 winner. She gets the job done for Jim Cassidy and company. 91 buyer, 121 time form U.S. rating. It sounds like next is either one of the two races out at Del Mar or possibly a trip to Saratoga or Arlington over the summer. Third graded stakes race at Santa Anita on that big Saturday afternoon of racing was the Charles Whittingham. It happened to be the second in chronological order, race number 6. Let's take a look at the field. Only 6 were signed on in here. There was a little bit of news prior to the race. Unfortunately, Tyler Bays with injury was unable to ride the post time favorite at 4-5, and It's in the Post. When we know It's in the Post, he is as solid as a horse gets, rock solid, shows up and runs each and every time, but there was always a little bit of unknown when you add a sort of new element to the entire picture, especially with a horse that has as good a relationship as It's in the Post has with Tyler Bays. Now you add in Julian Leparoux, one of the best turf riders in the world. You would like to think that things are still going to go according to plan, and ultimately they did. It's in the Post. Michael Rowan with the stretch.
At the rear, into the stretch, 3/16 left to go. What a view, tackled in earnest by Kenji Storm. A length and a half, it's in the post. Frank Conversation, flamboyant as next. Kenji Storm reaches the lead. It's in the post, is coming after him now. It's in the post, heads Kenji Storm. It's in the post, drives clear to win from Kenji Storm with Frank Conversation third. What a view was fourth.
He just keeps on firing. Big effort after big effort. Odds of 4-5. It's in the Post. Gets the job done in the 50th running of the Charles Whittingham. Kenji Storm, a big effort for Flavian Pratt and Phil D'Amato. Runs a good second. Just not quite good enough to get the job done over It's in the Post. And third was Frank Conversation, who just beat out the tiring pace setter. What a view. Let's talk more about It's in the Post. He's 10 of 35 lifetime. 10 of 35 lifetime. Over $1.2 million in career earnings. Owned by Red Baron's Barn LLC, trained by Jeff Mullins, bred by Julien Lanous, I apologize again about the pronunciation, in France, ridden by Julien Leparoux, and the pedigree at the bottom of the horse card by American Post out of a Mozart mare named Sakura Star. I will admit I tried to take a shot against him. He's one of my all-time favorites in the Post. I think he's rock solid. I love everything about him, but I thought maybe that Keeneland race showed that maybe we were tailing off a little bit as far as the form is concerned. Not so. Not so. 100 buyer, 128 time form U.S. rating. It's also good to note that the half, 3/4, and mile calls were all color-coded blue, and It's in the Post probably had to do a little bit more running to get himself into position to get the job done, especially when you consider a horse like Kenji Storm, who was pressing the pace. He stuck around all that way. It's in the Post. What else is there to say? He's just a rock-solid horse. He's cool. He shows up. He came home in 22.94. My favorite thing about this entire race, and I don't know if you want to pull it up in Formulator or you want to pull it up on YouTube or you pull it up on someone else, some other way that you watch your replays, whether it's Timeform US, whether it's RTN, any one of these things. Watch It's in the Post on the gallop out. Because to me, him winning these races at 1.25 miles, awesome, cool. I think he's best at 1.5 miles. And the way that this horse finished, that's the most massive kind of gallop out you're ever going to see, where Leparoux really just basically had a hammerlock on him, and he galloped all the way around to the backside as if he was never even taking a deep breath. I think he only is better with additional distance, so 1 3/8, 1.5 miles. I really think that's where this horse shines. Not that he can't win at 10. Clearly he can do it. I just think he's better even longer, and he's just a really cool horse. I'm a big fan of It's in the Post. He's never going to offer much value anymore, but I think he's really, really neat. And it's good to see. You know, I was wrong. I thought maybe there was a scenario where he was tailing off form. Clearly not. He's as good as ever. The rest of the field, I don't have a heck of a lot to say. Syntax, definitely disappointing. But again, Syntax is just the kind of horse that, he's... I don't know that you want him as the second choice, and that's what he was in a spot like this, just simply because we kind of know what his track record is. What of you? Probably too far for him, but at the same time, with the fractions that were laid down, really disappointing to see the way that he folded. Kenji Storm, I've always thought he's a cool horse. I still think he is a notch below graded stakes caliber. I think he's probably best suited in that sort of allowance, optional claiming ranks. And Frank Conversation's Frank Conversation. He'll show up with a decent enough effort from time to time. I made mention in the stakes preview, Flamboyant, I want him at those middle distances, not these sort of distances. To me, 8.5, 9 furlongs, that's really where he makes hay. That's where he can run with these kind of horses. He can't run with them at 10. He can't run with them at longer than that. So when he shows up in spots like this, he's uninteresting to me. But you get him back, heck, even to a mile. I think he's a heck of a lot more effective at a mile than he is at a distance like this. But I understand it's not that easy where you can't just sit there and say and cherry pick the 4 races that you're just going to circle. When the horse is ready to go and this is a spot that's available, you take a shot. Unfortunately for anyone that goes in these sort of divisions, It's in the Post is there. He's rock solid. Jeff Mullins has done a great job. Good ride from the substitute, Julian Leperoux. I'm sure Tyler Bays will be right back aboard when he's ready to go. It's in the Post, a 100 buyer and a 128 time form U.S. rating, winning the Charlie Whittingham. Let's move on to action from Sunday afternoon. Let's go to Lone Star Park for the Grade 3 Lone Star Park handicap. Very, very short field. Only 4 went postward, and you were going to have a giant favorite in here. Mubtahij making his first start back from the Dubai World Cup, going out for Baffert and Mike Smith. Smith ships into town. You better believe you're going to have a short price, and you better believe you're going to have a tough cookie that you're going to have to hold off if you're going to be out there trying to deal with a horse like Mubtahij on the front end. Mubtahij, we know what he's capable of on his best day, but having said that, he's never been a world beater. There have been instances where he's lost races he probably shouldn't. But this is an instance where, you know what, mile and a 16th, even after that trip from Dubai, he's probably still supposed to win in here, especially at odds of 2-5. But that is why they run the race. Here's the stretch run of the Lone Star Park handicap.
Cowboy leads it in the upper stretch. Mubtahij has stayed toward the inside. Now he angles out, and Mubtahij is trying to draw alongside Shotgun Cowboy, who still leads the way with a furlong to go. Then Mubtahij, Fear the Cowboy is third. Shotgun Cowboy leads the way to the final 16th. Mubtahij is not making enough of an impression. It's the Oklahoma-bred millionaire, Shotgun Cowboy, winning the Lone Star Park handicap. And he takes it by nearly a length and a half to Mubtahij.
Shotgun Cowboy gets the job done at odds of 9-2, the third choice in a 4-horse field, gate-to-wire fashion. A beautiful ride from Luis Quinones. And we're going to take a look. Mary Rampolini caught up with him after talking about how everything shook down in the Lone Star Park handicap.
Well, my horse just broke very sharp like he normally does, and then he was able to get to the front end and control the pace, and they come to him and he re-broke again, and when he put the ears up like that on the lane, I would just, I said, we got this.
Mubtahij does what he does. He came with a little bit of a bid, but it just wasn't enough, and he flattened out down the lane to run second at odds of 2-5, and your third place finisher was Fear the Cowboy, who went off at odds of 5-2. Let's talk a little bit more about the winner, though, Shotgun Cowboy. He's 12 of 29 lifetime. You see that he's been in the money, 9 other times, so 21 out of 29 lifetime starts. He's been in the board. $1.2 million in career earnings, owned and trained and bred by C.R. Trout. All in Oklahoma. Well done to C.R. Trout getting the job done here. Luis Quinones, we already heard from him. He got the job done as the winning rider. And the pedigree at the bottom of the screen, Kodiak Cowboy, out of a siphon mare named Shotgun Jane. From a speed figure standpoint, 95 buyer, 123 time form U.S. rating for Shotgun Cowboy, 92 buyer, 120 time form U.S. rating from Mubtahij, 88 buyer, 116 time form U.S. rating from Fear the Cowboy. Shotgun Cowboy, he's a really cool horse. He's one of those, again, that you get caught up in sort of the lesser divisions, or the lower tiers anyway, of the big older horses. And you find horses like this that maybe aren't the first ones that come to mind when you think of big races or anything like that. But when you go and watch them, they're very admirable. They show up and run their race. This horse, again, Shotgun Cowboy, 12 of 29 lifetime. And he keeps earning these nice mid to high 90 buyers. He fits. Sometimes he'll fire a little bit of a dud, but then he'll come right back with a big effort. And it's always nice when it's basically a horse that more or less one person has been taken care of. C.R. Trout, again, a great training job, great breeding situation, and he owns the horse as well. So there's a lot to like here. Quinones with a good ride takes what's given to him out on the front end. You see the fractions 24 and 147, 3, 11 and 3 for 3/4. And it sounds like if he comes out of this in good form, they'll probably go back to Iowa to run in the Grade 3 Cornhusker. That would be on July the 6th at Prairie Meadows. As far as Muptahij is concerned, Smith, after the race, said he just didn't fire his A race for one reason or another, just a bit flat. Maybe Dubai took more out of him than we thought it would. There's also something to think about anyway for a horse like Muptahij now going forward. He's 6 years old, so you wonder, those trips, maybe he bounced back from them in relatively good order in the past. Now you wonder at those sort of getting older and older and older, maybe he just doesn't bounce back quite the same way that he did. Smith said he was a little bit quiet all throughout, so I don't know. Again, he's never been a world beater, but he's better than what you saw on Sunday. And you wonder, is he ever going to get back to those sort of low triple-digit buyers where he's competitive in Grade 1 races? Or if we just sort of are we on the downswing on the back nine here from Muptahij? Either way, fine effort here to run second in the Lone Star Park Handicap. I think Fear the Cowboy, to me, was the one that was really sort of the disappointment, because this is a horse that has shipped all over the country. He's run anywhere and everywhere, different distances, different configurations, you name it. And he usually comes with a serious bid. This race, he was just kind of flat for one reason or another. I don't want to ever write off a horse like this that's as sort of consistent as he is. Everybody deserves a hiccup, and that's basically what I'm going to call this one from Fear the Cowboy. We'll find out ultimately where he shows up again down in the future. But hats off to everyone involved with Shotgun Cowboy. A very good effort, front-running score, winning the Lone Star Park Handicap. 95 buyer, 123 time form U.S. rating. Shift our attention back out to Santa Anita for Sunday afternoon. A big event, a big performance, really. Grade 3 Desert Stormer. Fillies and mares going 6 furlongs. Only a field of 5, but I have to be honest, this was one of the most impressive performances of the weekend. This followed up on Saturday when we saw just a blowout performance from Accelerate in the Gold Cup. You followed that up with Marleys Freedom. Marleys Freedom's always been a very, very talented filly, but she's recently been transferred over to the Bob Baffert barn, and boy, did she put on a show. She had a little bit of help, but she put on a show on Sunday afternoon. Michael Ronan with the stretch run.
Freedom. Marleys Freedom continuing a surge to the front. She has easily disposed of Miss Sunset at the 8th pole and is careering away with the Desert Stormer. Marleys Freedom by 6 lengths at the 16th pole from Miss Sunset, who in turn is a sizable margin clear of Uvetzi. They come in at long intervals behind Marleys Freedom.
Marleys Freedom gets the job done by over 7 lengths, winning the Grade 3 Desert Stormer. Second place is Miss Sunset. Miss Sunset, in my opinion, man, you want to talk about just having it taken to you early on. We'll dive into that and dissect it a little bit more. She runs second as the even money second choice, and Uvetzi runs third at odds of 16-1. Let's talk about Desert Stormer winner Marleys Freedom. She is 4 of 10 lifetime, 6 times in the exacta, over $233,000 in career earnings, owned by Cicero Farms LLC, trained by Bob Baffert, bred by Jack Swain III in Kentucky. Ridden to victory by Drayden Van Dyke in the pedigree at the bottom of the horse card. By Blame out of a formal gold mare named Relaxing Green. Let's talk about the numbers and the details. A 105 buyer and a 126 time form U.S. rating for Marleys Freedom, winning the Desert Stormer. Visually, an awesome effort. Final 1/8 of a mile in 12:41. You conversely had a horse like Miss Sunset, and I know circumstances really worked against Miss Sunset, but she came home in 13:13. The 126 time form U.S. rating for Marleys Freedom, that makes her one of the faster filly and mare sprinters that we have going right now. The 105 buyer certainly puts her in there. Time form US has the half-mile split color-coded blue. I don't know that I can say I disagree with that, but I kind of look at this race and say this was a matter of the pace was hot early on. The opening quarter was 21-3, and you had 3 horses, a 3-way duel in a 5-horse race, and the only reason another horse wasn't any closer, Classy Tune, is because she basically fell to her nose coming out of the gate. So you got 3 of them lined up, 2 cheap horses, and Miss Sunset. And at that point, Drayden Van Dyke can just grab hold of Marleys Freedom. You know that she can sit and rate and relax and still make a move, and just let them duke it out. Finally, Miss Sunset puts away the other 2 speeds. Here comes Marleys Freedom, and absolutely chews her up and spits her out and goes off and wins for fun. This is an impressive effort from Marleys Freedom. This is a horse that I think is going to go on and do bigger and better things. I think she could be a legitimate contender for a race like the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint if she continues to progress like this. Miss Sunset, though, don't write her off. I don't know that she's truly grade 1 level, but she's a heck of a lot better than what you saw on Sunday, and I think the only reason that she got beat as badly as she did is because of the circumstances. The pace was unbelievable early on, and I know that Timeform has that half-mile split color-coded blue, but I have to be honest. I think that probably took a little bit of the starch out of her. Perhaps she never would have beaten Marleys Freedom, but it would have been a heck of a lot closer than 7 1/4 lengths. Thought it was a big effort from each of the top two, and truth be told, the bottom three, they're a notch or two below. I think this is really a race that you want to take a look at the top two and assess where they come out and where they end up. If Marleys Freedom, if they stay at Saratoga, or if they go to Saratoga, or they stay in Southern California and run at Del Mar. Same can be said for Miss Sunset. Did they try to ship her out of town, or do they keep her in Southern California? I think the top two have a tremendous amount of ability, and I think it's a much narrower gap than that 7 1/4 final margin would indicate. A big effort from Marleys Freedom, first time out going for Baffert. A big effort from Miss Sunset, considering the early pace that was thrown her way. I think each of those top two girls, they both have bigger and better things to come for them over the summer and into the fall, and perhaps even Breeders' Cup time at Churchill Downs. Marleys Freedom, 105 Beyer, 126 time form U.S. rating, winning the Desert Stormer. One of the more fascinating races to dissect from this Memorial Day weekend came on Memorial Day, and we'll wrap things up with a couple of races from Memorial Day out at Santa Anita. The Grade 1 Schumaker Mile, only a field of 8, but you had a little bit of everything in here. You had confirmed front runners, you had horses that were going to come from way out of the back of the pack. It looked like there would be a pretty honest pace signed on. You had shippers, you name it, they were all involved in here. Maybe at face value, it doesn't seem like a fascinating race to go through and dissect and make a decision on what you think of it. To me, it is probably the most interesting race of the weekend to make a decision on where ultimately this field ends up and really how highly you want to think of this race. First things first, Michael Rona with the stretch run of the Schumaker Mile.
Extreme outside, Orman heart to heart together at the 3/16 pole. Hunter's running a giant race. He represents serious danger. A line of 3 at the 8th pole now. Heart to heart, Hunt. On the inside. Next Shares, Bowie's Hero finishing on. Hunt and heart to heart, followed by Next Shares. Hunt gets his head in front, and Hunt has won from heart to heart and Next Shares.
Hunt gets the job done at odds of 9-1 off of a 6-month layoff for Phil D'Amato. Heart to Heart, the 3-2 favorite, is defeated. A game second place finish coming in from out of town. And Next Shares from out of the clouds runs third with Bejarano aboard, finishes in 22.75 and runs third at odds of 8-1. Let's take a deeper look at your winner, Hunt, coming off of that 6-month layoff. 9-27 lifetime, 8 times second or third, over $908,000 in career earnings, owned by Michael House, trained by Phil D'Amato. Bred by Michael O'Callaghan in Ireland, ridden to victory by Flavian Pratt. This is a horse that is by Dark Angel out of a Vittori mare named Mancia. Hunt earns a 106 Beyer in this race. Now, at face value, that probably doesn't look like it's that crazy, because a horse like Heart to Heart runs a 106, and Next Shares, I suppose, could run a 105. When you look at their final come-home times, their final quarters, and consider where they were all positioned out on the racing track, Hunt came home in 23.34. Heart to Heart came home in 23.83. And Next Shares came home in 22.75. Now, again, considering where they are, Heart to Heart is the closest one in attendance to the pace. He's naturally going to come home a little bit slower than those other two. Hunt was mid-pack throughout the majority of the run, and Next Shares came from out of it. The first thing, let's talk about Heart to Heart. Heart to Heart, to me, this was actually one of the first times he's actually passed a horse. And he dug in gamely at the end. Nobody has questioned his tenacity, but that's with a little bit of a caveat. They haven't questioned it when he's out there on the lead dictating things. In this race, there was never even a sniff of him dictating things, with Ohm being sent from the inside. So the fact that he at least showed a little bit of a different dimension, and you saw his head going into the far turn. He wasn't loving life out there. His head was up and he was pulling a little bit, but he at least settled slightly, where it makes me wonder now going forward. His best game is still speed, no question about it. But if you get an instance like this where you have somebody that is hell-bent on making the front, do the connections of Heart to Heart rethink it a little bit and try to ride him in this manner, where, you know what, we actually think he can sit and be effective? I'm still not entirely sold, but at least this race gives me a glimmer of hope that there is a new dimension to him, or another dimension as a 7-year-old, that perhaps he can sit off of a target and actually get the job done. Now, unfortunately, Hunt got the better of him here in this spot. And that kind of leads me back into my bigger piece of why I think this race might be a little bit of a, we need to put a little bit of a star next to it and come back to it when horses run out of it. Hunt earns a 106 Beyer, and I'm going to run right through them all for you. Heart to Heart, a 106 Beyer. Next Shares, a 105 Beyer. Ohm, 103. Bowie's Hero, 103. Colonist, 102. Blackjack Cat, 101. And Arms Runner, the last place finisher, a 99. Why am I running through all these Beyer speed figures for you? I understand some of them fit very, very nicely with what some of these horses are capable of, but it needs to be mentioned. I could be slightly off on one of these, but I'm almost positive these are all accurate. Hunt, Heart to Heart, Next Shares, a tie for Bowie's Hero, Colonist, and Arms Runner all ran career tops in this race, according to the buyers. The Timeform US figs aren't out right now as I'm going through this. It is not impossible, but it is highly improbable that all of those horses ran the best race of their life on Monday afternoon. Not impossible, but really, really difficult for me to believe that all of them ran the best race of their career from a figure standpoint. It's just one of those things that, so I guess really what's the point I'm trying to make? I think there's a scenario where this race is slower than it actually looks from a speed figure standpoint, and that will only be addressed when these horses start to come back and run back. But on the flip side, I can see why, because they stopped the clock in 34 flat. So it was a fast race. I just don't know that it was this fast. And this is where everyone would love it to just be as black and white as a newspaper, but that's just not how the figure making process works all the time. You need to take some liberties and make a couple little tweaks here and there, and what is realistic and what is not realistic. This here, man, when Colonist runs 6th, and he's never going to get a sniff of this thing, and he runs the career best, career top, as I look at it, by 6 points, beaten 6th in a field of 8. When Arms Runner runs 8th out of 8, now he's lightly raced, so I suppose it's not totally out of left field, but he runs the best race of his life by 4 points. Blackjack Cat, whose form recently has just been awful, this number is suggesting that he is back to one of his best races. His Breeders' Cup Mile was 3 starts back, and he earned a 103 that day. So you're suggesting that this effort from Blackjack Cat right here on Monday afternoon, when he runs 7th of 8, was on par with an effort like the Breeders' Cup Mile, essentially. Man, I have a hard time believing that. Because if that's the case, this might be the best grade 1 of the year. We'll find out. Only time will tell. I hate to just spend so much time harping on it, but this is a fascinating race for me going forward, because you're going to have a lot of horses that exit this race with short prices in their next start because of these big, gaudy figures that they earned. 7 of the 8 earned 101 or better buyers. Man, I'm not entirely sold that that's actually the case. And I don't have any other way to find out, and none of you do either, until we see these horses run back and see if they validate this form or not. Just something to keep in the back of your mind. At any rate, we got to talk about the winner briefly. Hunt, very good training job by D'Amato to get him back. Seems like he likes having a little bit of time between races. This is a win and you're in for the Breeders' Cup Mile. That's basically what the connections have said all along, that we're going to be good to go. We'll give him a little bit of time. They're going to try to repeat in the Eddie Reed. He won that race at Del Mar last year, and that seems to be his next start, at least targeted anyway, at the moment. A good effort from Hunt. He earns a 106 buyer, which, again, keep that in mind going forward and keep an eye on this race. Finishes in 23:34. Flavian Pratt with the ride. They get the job done in the Grade 1 Schumaker Mile. Let's wrap up the recap portion of this show, taking a look at the Monrovia going down the hill on Memorial Day. A field of 9 signed on, 6.5 furlongs. The favorite at 9-5 was Belvoir Bay, going out for Peter Miller and Victor Espinoza. This is a filly that really just relishes going down the hillside turf course out at Santa Anita. She's got a little bit of versatility. She can go to the lead. She can sit just off of it. And really, she's just a handy little filly. And little is a key word, because Peter Miller mentioned afterward, she only weighs about 980 pounds. So she has a little bit of nimbleness to her. And you know what? She needed every bit of that, because the stretch run got a little bit tight on her, but she was able to get through. Michael Ronan with the stretch run of the Monrovia.
Of it, blame it on Alfie, peeling deep. Miss Sugar's last. Algorithmic heads for home, a half length in front, taken on by Mongolian Shopper. Belvoir Bay is squeezing through between this pair. She dives through that opening like a jackrabbit. Belvoir Bay kicks to the lead, explodes away by 3 lengths. A brilliant turn of foot from her. Ancient Secret getting into the exacta, but Belvoir Bay has a 5-year-old hat trick of stakes victories down the hill.
Belvoir Bay gets the job done as the 9-5 favorite, finishes her final stretch run in 28:46, gets the job done, pays $5.60. Ancient Secret runs a game second beneath Flavian Pratt at odds of 5-2, and Compelled runs third at odds of 7-1 with Drayden Van Dyke up. Let's take a look a little bit more, a little bit deeper at Belvoir Bay. She's 9 of 20 lifetime, 5 times second or third, over $558,000 in career earnings, owned by Team Valor International and Gary Barber, trained by Peter Miller, bred by Mrs. R.D. Peacock in Great Britain, ridden victory by Victor Espinoza. And you can see that this filly is by Equiano out of a Rock of Gibraltar mare named Path of Peace. 101 buyer speed figure, for this 5-year-old mare at this point. She really is just a revelation. I love the way that she moves. She's very, very confident out there. A little bit tight, but again, I feel like Victor just knew what he had beneath him. And she's handy. She can sit off of a pace. And it's not like they were blistering out there. 21 and 344 for a half. 44 for a half going down the hill. That's a relatively easy pace. They could easily go, some of the better horses, 43, and even some of them shade 43 on the lesser side. So there's a lot to like about this performance and this filly particularly because she has that versatility. She can adapt to what's thrown her way. I think the world of her. I think she's very, very talented, and it'll be interesting to see where they decide to go with her ultimately because, unfortunately, a year like this, the Breeders' Cup not out at Santa Anita. The turf sprint, it's either 5 or 5.5 furlongs at Churchill. Normally it's 5, but I want to say they extended it to 5.5 strictly for the Breeders' Cup. We'll find out. That's another story for another day. But Belvoir Bay, I think she's very, very talented. Ancient Secret, I think she's really good. Those of us on the East Coast were familiar with her when she was with Chad Brown. Now she's out there on the West Coast, and look, Phil D'Amato's done a good job with her. He's got her really in a good position where these races seem to suit her. The distance is nice. She has a little bit of versatility as well. She comes from a little bit farther back, perhaps, than a horse like Belvoir Bay does, but I thought it was a good effort from each of the top two. Compelled, perhaps she wants a little bit more distance in the 6.5 down the hill, but I kind of feel like she's stuck in a little bit of a rut in that low 90 range. Don't know if she's quite grade 1 or grade 2 level, but I think she's certainly a grade 3 candidate for any of these kind of races. A horse to keep an eye on, I think, if you want to throw one in your horse watch for this week, would be Kanaya. Kanaya never really got an opportunity to run down the lane beneath Kent DeSormo. I don't know what happened to her speed. She's always, in the past anyway, had some nice early tactical foot where she can be forward. This time around, she was well out of it. She was moving comfortably enough, but unfortunately at the top of the lane, he just kind of got into a box and there was nowhere for her to go. Not Kent's fault, just unlucky as far as the racing luck is concerned. But finally, she got through a little bit of a seam at the end and she galloped out pretty well. So whether it's 6.5 down the hill, I don't know if she's as good as Belvoir Bay, talent-wise. But if it's 6.5 down the hill, but we know that Kanaya can do some other things. So if it's down the hill or it's on the dirt or it's some other distance, perhaps Kanaya is one to keep an eye on because I think this is a sneaky race for her. A little bit of trouble, a little bit of traffic. I think she's better than what you saw on Monday afternoon. But Belvoir Bay, no doubt about it, the star of the afternoon as far as the turf fillies are concerned. She gets the job done going down the hill in the Monrovia with a 101 buyer. Let's dive into the stakes montage again because unfortunately we just don't have time to go over all these races. You will go through all sorts of stuff from Monmouth Park, from Woodbine. We'll even show a little bit of Belmont. We'll wrap things up with Golden Gate with the All-American because a horse that won that race, he's got a pretty famous brother that's running right now as well. We'll get to that. We'll touch on it when we come back. Here's the stakes montage.
A 3-wide bid, Frostmorn on the fence, and Money Multiplier in between them. Projected is just behind them. They're in the final furlong. Frostmorn, Divisadero in the center, and Money Multiplier down at the rail. It's projected. What a race. Money Multiplier takes the lead late. Divisadero, Money Multiplier, back to back.
Getting me in front. Melmich is releasing the brakes on the outside. Gigantic Breeze fighting back. Melmich coming. Are you kidding me in front? Gigantic Breeze and Melmich. Are you kidding me? He's holding out. Melmich on the outside. We're down to the 2. And are you kidding me? He's got it 1. Are you kidding me? He's done the job in brilliant style. Has
the stretch, Sunny Ridge on the outside up to Shaft of Light. Shaft of Light digs in gamely. Sunny Ridge ahead back second. Paige McKinney is finishing strongly on the outside. And here comes Paige McKinney. Has to get to Shaft of Light. Shaft of Light a length. Paige McKinney closing. Paige McKinney, a true professional, gets up to win the Salvatore. Starting to launch a bid in the turquoise. They're at the top of the stretch. Bramble Queen scampers clear to lead it by 3. Reverse the decision, motoring home on the outside, and Dark Artist in between them. Dark Artist gets the jump. Reverse the decision on the outside. Dark Artist means business under Trevor McCarthy. Dark Artist wins the Boiling Springs.
And then Black Stetson to the outside, and Curlin's Honor, they're into the stretch. Masked and Gitu. These two, 1-2 with a furlong to run. Masked is still in front. Gitu now draws up alongside dead even, and here comes Curlin's Honor to try and join them on the outside. Gitu in front, Masked inside. Curlin's Honor on the outside, chasing Gitu to the wire, and Gitu did it in the Paradise Creek. Curlin's Honor was...
Starship Jubilee is now darting through between them and down the outside. After them all is Bletchley, very wide, and Gianna's Dream, many chances. Starship Jubilee and Negon's Eclipse, and it is Negon's Eclipse still in front. Starship Jubilee in second, and now Patrick Husbands and Bletchley putting in a great stretch run down the outside. It's Negon's Eclipse in front, Bletchley flying home on the outside. Negon's Eclipse has held on to win a half a length. Bletchley second.
Colonist in the gold colours is into the clear, and Kenji Stormers down the outside. They're at the 8th pole. What a View, showing a glimpse of last year's form, is still the leader from Colonist and Kenji Storm. Blackjack Cat, What a View in front from Colonist and Kenji Storm. What a View from Colonist, and What a View wins by a neck to Colonist.
There you have it. The Lieutenant wraps up this week's stakes montage with a victory up at Golden Gate in the Grade 3 All-American. Fun fact, the Lieutenant... he is out of a mare that is by Ghost Sapper, and her name is Stage Magic. If that name is familiar, and the breeder as well, John D. Gunther, there's a reason, because there's been another name in the news recently that's has the same mom. His name is Justify. So Lieutenant is the older half-brother to the horse that will hopefully, for many people's sake, be able to get the job done in the Belmont Stakes just a little more than, what, a week and a half from now at Belmont Park, wrapping up the third leg in the United States Triple Crown. But we still have time to just go over all that kind of stuff. For now, let's talk about the best performances of the past weekend from a Beyer speed figure standpoint. Doesn't matter age, gender, sex, distance, surface, whatever it may be, got it covered for you. Let's go and take a look at the graphic. The 3-year-old males on dirt. Cove Blue, a 93, and a non-winner's a one other than at Churchill Downs. 3-year-old fillies on dirt. Minute to Stardom, a 92, and a non-winner's a one other than at Churchill Downs. That's a filly I believe is 3 for 3 thus far for Al Stall. I wonder if at some point she gets thrown into the deep end and find out if she can sink or swim. Number 3. 3-year-old males on turf. Gadoo gets the job done in that little stakes race at Belmont Park, the Paradise Creek, with an 88 Beyer. 3-year-old fillies on turf. We have a tie. Dark Artist and Rockin' Ready. 83 Beyers in the Boiling Springs at Monmouth, as well as a maiden special weight affair out at Santa Anita. Older males on dirt. My opinion, the star of the weekend, Accelerate, 111 Beyer winning the Gold Cup out at Santa Anita. Older fillies on dirt. Marleys Freedom, almost as impressive, winning the Desert Stormer with a 105 Beyer speed figure. Older males on turf. Hunt and Heart to Heart, they're separated by a neck. 106 Beyer speed figure. I've made it clear. I'm a little bit unsure if that number is a little bit on the high side or not. We'll find out in time. In the Schumaker Mile, and the older fillies on turf, we just saw her, Belvoir Bay. She wins the Monrovia with a 101 Beyer speed figure. There they are, the weekend's best performances from a Beyer speed figure standpoint here on the Matt Bernier Show. Let's dive into the DRF TV schedule of events for this rest of the week. You'll have a number of things coming up. The usual things, the usual programming. The DRF Players podcast is already uploaded at this point. You will have the latest edition of Out of the Gate coming up later on. You will have the Watchmaker Watch, as well as the Weekend Warrior. You will have DRF breeding reports. You will have formulator angles. You will have all sorts of good things, as well as all of the DRF Bets races of the day and the stakes previews and all of those things that you've come to know and love from DRF TV. Again, if you are listening on YouTube, click that subscribe button. You'll get all the latest that DRF TV has to offer. This is going to wrap up the recap edition of the Matt Bernier Show. Again, unfortunately, you haven't been able to listen live just because of timing. But when you do listen live, live.drf.com, livestream.com, Daily Racing Form's Twitter handle and Facebook page. The Twitter handle is at DRF Inside Post. If you listen in the podcast form, YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, video.drf.com. The YouTube, obviously, click subscribe, give us the thumbs up. iTunes, give us a nice little review, give us a nice little rating. That'll help all these things go out there. Questions, comments, concerns, fire away at me on Twitter. I am at Bernier_Matt, or leave them in the comments section below in the YouTube videos. I'll go through, occasionally respond to some folks if you have any questions, comments, or just anything in general. So fire away at all that kind of good stuff. The preview show will be back and ready to go on Friday at the normal time, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Prior to that will be the DRF Players podcast, and post the Matt Bernier Show will be the latest edition of Out of the Gate. So until we chat again at the end of the week, best of luck however you're playing, whatever you're playing, wherever you're playing. This has been the recap edition of the Matt Bernier Show.